How then does Beijing perceive what is happening with the security alliances and the security frameworks that are being built and that are expanding in this part of the world?
That is a very good question. Theoretically, the United States has more than 60 allies and partners. So let's talk about the Western scenario. If there is a war in Taiwan Strait, how many countries would actually stand on Chinese side and how many countries would stand on American side? I believe there are very few countries that would actually pick Chinese side. But likewise, on the American side, Japan will be one of them because it has treaty obligations to provide logistic support and military bases to the United States. And then is Australia to a less extent, because the Australian government has made it clear that the purchase of nuclear-powered submarines is not in exchange of a conflict in Taiwan Strait. And then you come to South Korea, who actually worries more about Korean Peninsula as always, and they would definitely need, consultations or support or collaboration with the Chinese government. And finally, we come to the Philippines. The Philippines has recently given 9 bases on conditional use to the United States, which is badly needed by the United States because it actually has strengthened America's forward presence along the first chain of violence. But even the Filipinos are not stupid people, because there are conditions attached to American use of this military bases. So if you just count by fingers, I don't believe there are more than even a handful of countries that are diehard supporters of the United States in the Western scenario.
So at most a handful of countries, Colonel. But then why is China talking about and so worried about what officials have described as the creation or the setting up of an Asian NATO centered on Japan, which is an observer at the NATO summit right now?
Well, yes, you sometimes would have heard such kind of description of Asian NATO. I personally don't believe there would be an Asian NATO at all. Because the core of the NATO is Article 5. But for these countries, just a few of them, to come into such a kind of alliance to pledge, attack on one is attack of all, I don't think so. Because if you, let's look at India, for example. India would be most important for the United States in years to come. But India, in Quad, would just stand somewhat away from this kind of alliance. And if you look at the Quad, is there a military element in it? Yes, it is just but a military exercise called Malabar. And besides, there is a so-called maritime domain awareness. But that's it. Then it actually is going into some other direction, like building of infrastructure, like climate change, whatever they are. They're not that relevant in military field. So I don't believe, and I mean, the United States definitely want to create an Asian NATO. The United States definitely want a European country to join in containing China in this part of the world, because China would remain the priority for the United States in decades to come. But the United States won't succeed because no countries are stupid to blindly pick a side.